Could we get the roll call of the commission, please?
Chairman Johnston.
Here.
Vice Chairwoman East. Here. Commissioner Almberg.
Here.
Commissioner Barnes.
Here.
Commissioner Cavilla.
Here.
Commissioner Hubbs. Here. Commissioner.
Thank you all. With that, we can move on to agenda item number 2, approval of the agenda. Chairman Brad Johnston for possible action. The commission will review the agenda and may take action to approve the agenda. The commission may remove items from the agenda, continue items for consideration, or take items out of order. Any comments or questions on the agenda? Seeing none, it is an action item. Any public comment on the agenda? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission for any further discussion or motion. Commissioner Valentine?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented by Commissioner Valentine, second by Vice Chair East. Any further discussion, comment? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Move on to agenda item number 3, approval of minutes. Chairman Brad Johnston for possible action. Commission minutes may be approved from the May 1st, 2020 meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? Any comments to the minutes? Commissioner McNinch?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On page 22, I was discussing carrying capacity, and it was noted as carrying capacity, so just a note there that was in reference to carrying so just a quick note there. And then on page 36, it's an important distinction. I was making comment about that I didn't condone, it's relevant to the bear stuff, that it's reflected that I was concerned about property owners harassing department staff when I was really concerned about, I'll just call them radicals, bothering employees and property owners. So it was an important distinction I just wanted to clarify.
Vice Chair East?
I just have a comment, and I've just noticed it over the last couple of, maybe last year or two, that some of our minutes are paraphrased, and so there's not a distinction in some of the information that, or what we said, and so I would just like to, if there's, I guess in the future, I would like more of a distinction about what was said in some cases, and I can work with some. Just for accuracy.
I'm trying.
Any further comments on the minutes? This is an action item. Any public comment on the minutes from the May 1st, 2020 meeting? So there's a Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner McNinch?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented with the noted comments, particularly the carrying capacity on page 22, making a distinction on page 36.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner McNinch, seconded by Commissioner Hubbs. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. With that, we'll move on to agenda item number 4. Member items, announcements, and correspondence. Chairman Brad Johnston, Informational. Commissioners may present emergent items. No action may be taken by the Commission. Any item requiring Commission action may be scheduled on a future Commission agenda. The Commission will review and may discuss correspondence sent or received. by the Commission since the last regular meeting and may provide copies for the exhibit file. Commissioners may provide hard copies of their correspondence for the written record. Correspondence sent or received by Secretary Wasley may also be discussed. I did receive correspondence, most of those related to specific agenda items, and I forward all those on to the department. I believe most of the commissioners were copied on those email correspondence as well, so I won't address those. I did receive a telephone call from Mel Belding. Mr. Belding wanted to put on the commission's agenda and to work with the department to look at the elk management plans and whether or not the elk management plans need to be updated, revised, or where we're at on various elk management plans. I did receive a phone call from someone here local in southern Lyon County on the Landowner tag program. My comment to that was we had a committee that went through the Landowner tag program, and if he had comments, he needed to present them to the commission. But I have not seen any further correspondence on that. And the only other member item announcement I have is I'd like to just welcome everyone here to Mason Valley, and we appreciate having the commission meet here again. This is a nice venue under difficult circumstances, but it's nice to have a meeting outside. So welcome all to my neck of Nevada, or neck of the woods as I might say. So, any other member items? Commissioner or Vice Chair East?
Thank you. I just wanted to let everyone know that I received a note from Karen Boger, and the working group of the Wild Horse and Burro Committee under the Wildlife Coalition is making a presentation to the Interim Public Lands Committee on Friday, July 17th at 9 a.m. and they welcome any comment or interaction that you might be willing to provide at that meeting.
Commissioner McNinch?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll follow up on that a little bit. The Coalition for Healthy Nevada Lands, Wildlife, and Free Roaming Horses, it's a group of folks that are working on trying to move. I did have a chance to talk to Director Wasley, and it really is, it's just the timing's not quite right. The department, I mean, let's face it, the department's got a million things going on. They've got, you know, just putting a meeting together like this is a big challenge. Our committees have been, you know, having a committee meeting is difficult, and we won't even get into the personnel challenges with the hiring freezes and staff retirements and stuff like that. So, you know, it'd be nice to get to that at a point sooner than later, but you know, we'll do the best we can to work with the department. And as a commission, I think that we do need to do something to kind of modify that policy and make it reflect a little more what we feel. But for now, we'll just continue to I'll continue to communicate with them, and if there's an opportunity to do something, we'll work on it. But otherwise, there's some stuff going on. BLM had a big report come out. Maybe we can get an update on that from Alan at some point in the next commission meeting or two. Maybe we can use that as a springboard to take the next step. So I just wanted to throw that out there so that everybody knows that there's stuff going on out there.
Commissioner Hubbs?
In terms of correspondence, most of it was copied with the rest of the commissioners, and mine typically related to a petition that I believe we'll hear tomorrow. But in regard to the Karen Boger work with the wild horses and burros, can you explain what exactly they're doing and what's going on? I know we are holding back on our committee meeting for the review of the policy, but I didn't know exactly what the meeting entailed or when it would be, or exactly what's going on in that nature.
Well, I'll have Tiffany help me out with this. They've been in contact with her as well. So Basically, they're just trying to get a diverse coalition together, a diverse group of professionals and interest groups, folks that are advocates for wild horses and folks that are advocates for cattle and livestock and grazing, and folks that are range management and wildlife, and they're trying to move the dial. They're trying to move the dial on this horse situation in Nevada. The numbers just are exploding, and without getting out in front of, without trying to do something, it's just, there's going to be an endpoint of some kind, and they'd rather have it be a positive endpoint where we're doing something that's proactive and managing the situation rather than just this, collapse of these ecosystems and stuff. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to build energy to try to move, to support BLM to get the funding that they need to manage the horses. And I'm leaving it pretty broad because, what does that mean? So some people don't want to see spaying of mares and stuff like that, but this group is supportive of those types of efforts to get things started. And I did receive a letter from the co-chair or the chairwoman, of the committee, and just yesterday, I guess. And maybe I'll forward that to Megan or Brandy and ask them to forward it to everybody, and it'll give you a little better idea of what they're up to and what the coalition is trying to accomplish. But that's it in a nutshell. They're just trying to be proactive. They're trying to do something.
And just for a quick point, the point of going to the Public Lands Committee in July is to lay the groundwork for a potential resolution coming up in the legislative session next year. So I think they'd like to make some movement now so that they're preparing for next year, and that potential resolution could go on to Congress for some action there.
And then the meeting's taking place in northern Nevada, or?
It's a legislative interim committee meeting, so it'll be video streamed to Las Vegas as well as to all throughout the state. So if you'd like, I'll find the link and I can send it on to you.
Okay. All right.
Okay, any additional member items? Secretary Wasley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to reiterate all the correspondence that the department has received has been forwarded to the commission. I wanted to address the desire to examine the commission policy as it pertains to horses, and Commissioner McNich's characterization of the department's position on that. I just want everybody to know, the commission in particular, that the department understands and recognizes the challenge and problems that the feral horse issue presents to our rangelands, whether it's sage grouse, mule deer, water availability. It's a significant issue, and what I shared with Commissioner McNich when he asked me about it was that I didn't know how realistic it was to think that a commission policy would really have a big effect on the way that they're currently managed, and given the other challenges with all the irons in the fire and public land issues and personnel challenges and vacancies, etc., that would be our best effort is in revising a commission policy that quite frankly isn't adhered to or followed in its current form. And so we could revise that and we could like what's in it, but does that change management? Does that bring more resources? And those are questions that we need to examine and look at. But I don't want anybody to think that the wild horse issue isn't paramount in terms of our priorities. I think the issue is, would revising or updating that policy affect the desired change on the landscape? And I think that's where some of the doubt comes in, and it begs the question, how much time, energy, effort do we spend revising a policy if it isn't going to have the desired effect on horse management? So the department, I think it would be a good idea to hear from the Habitat Division in particular and our roles and efforts in that arena. And maybe it's revising that policy and 2 or 3 other things, and working with some of these groups and committees But please understand that our resistance to jump into revising that policy isn't because we don't recognize the need or the challenge that horses present. So we want to be realistic in will it have the desired effect. And then lastly, Commissioner McNitch talked about some of the vacancies and hiring freeze. Under announcements, I did want to announce that our Deputy Director, Liz O'Brien, retired in early June, 33 years state service. It was something that she struggled with and just loved the department. It was really tough. I don't think she was ready to go. She's continued to send us emails about interim finance committee agendas. I don't think she's officially retired. I think she's kind of working for free right now to a certain extent, but I did want to announce that. So we'll be trying to get that filled as soon as we can. So that concludes my announcement. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Any others? I guess I forgot to mention one thing. Arrangements have been made for dinner here tonight through a local Yerington caterer, so that'll be at 6. I invite anybody who wants to stick around for that to attend. So we also have a special treat from one of the cabs at dinner too. So I will not disclose what that special treat is and let that be a surprise, but I want to just invite everybody. There should be more than enough to accommodate anyone who wishes to dine with us here this evening. With that, we can close agenda item number 4 and move on to agenda item number 5. County advisory boards to manage wildlife member items. Informational. CAB members may present emergent items. No action may be taken by the commission. Any item requiring commission action will be scheduled on a future commission agenda. Any CAB items?
Do you want us to stand over there or just talk loud?
I'm coming.
You got it. Paul Dixon Clark, I just wanted to say that John and I, after 6 years of service on the Clark cab, was not reappointed, but Jacob Thompson from UNLV, who has a lot of similar background to John in conservation and other things, has come onto the cab, and I think could be a great addition. So I just want to let you know that I had somebody very good like John, who's no longer on my cab, but who was replaced with someone I think he can be good. Thank you.
Rob Beamer, Carson City Cab. I'm a little bit reluctant to, well, not reluctant, but sad that I have to address the commission in this fashion. We received collectively from our cab, I think it was 93 different comments, either by voicemail or by email about our last meeting, and particularly where the commission made decisions regarding setting quotas for areas throughout the state. And I'd be amiss not to address this commission to remind each of you that you guys have a duty to make sure that this process is done right? And I realize that there was some oversight and some discussion, I think, got kind of led away from some of the recommendations that were made, particularly to Unit 194, 195, 196, and 192, where 2 different county advisory boards made recommendations to this body to have those quotas increased. And I'm certain, and I know, we've talked to a few of you, and we know that, the discussion got kind of a little bit sidetracked, and we certainly understand that we're not all perfect, right? All the people that, in all fairness, all the people that reached out to me directly, I tried to be a cheerleader for the commission and really help these folks understand that, albeit that you all are kind of like Mary Poppins, practically perfect in every way, we still make mistakes, right? And so, was that a good analogy, Brad? I don't
I've never been compared to Mary Poppins, so I don't know if the analogy
I was trying to
fits.
shed a little bit of light on this. Anyway, I feel obligated as a member of the County Advisory Board for Carson City I'm certainly not speaking for Douglas County, but we talked to some of their cab members as well. And the fact that you guys completely disregarded the recommendations that were made for those units, where we had backing from the department biologically as well as that was sustained, that you know, every year we're going to have this. So everyone knows, every year the cabs are going to come to you, these two cabs are going to come to you and ask you to revise that quota, mainly based on the formula that the department utilizes to make that to make those determinations. So every year we're going to come to you likely and ask you to increase that quota because it's sustainable and it's needed. And there's a lot of folks that's all they put in for is those units because that's all they can hunt, right? And so I would just ask that in the future give heed to that, right? That we don't get sidetracked and on other avenues, you know, other things that I know are important, but this was equally or more important than some of the things that you guys, decisions that you guys made. So I promised that I would address this with the commission. I know these are not easy things to hear probably, but it is what it is, and just ask that you give some consideration to that going forward as we go in the future and whatnot. So thank you.
Any additional cab comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll close agenda item number 5 and move on to agenda item 6. Wayne E. Kirch 2019 Award Presentation, Chairman Brad Johnston. Chairman Johnston will present the 2019 Wayne E. Kirch Award that acknowledges a deserving individual, nonprofit organization, outdoor sports club or business who have achieved significant results toward the conservation, management, or enhancement of wildlife in the state of Nevada during the last calendar year. The June meeting is one of my favorite meetings because we get the Kirch Award. We also do significant expenditures of money out of the Heritage account, as well as I believe we have the Upland stamp money and a variety of things. So this is always a great meeting and a very positive one. And so, for those who are not familiar, the Wayne E. Kirch Conservation Award is given annually by the Nevada Board of Wildlife Commissioners to recipients who have demonstrated significant results towards conservation, management, or enhancement of wildlife. It's named in the memory of Wayne E. Kirch, who served on the Fish and Game Commission for more than 25 years, the longest tenure on the board since its inception in 1877. I find it hard to believe that someone endured 25 years on this commission, but that is a testament to Mr. Kirch's legacy. The Kirch Award judging panel chooses from a pool of nominees sent in from around the state. The judging panel is made up of 2 wildlife commissioners, Marlene Kirch, the daughter of former Commissioner Wayne E. Kirch, and 4 county advisory board to manage wildlife members or outdoor groups. And this year's recipient of the Wayne E. Kirch Nevada Wildlife Conservation Award has made significant contributions to Nevada and its wildlife, not in just the past year, but over the span of more than 40 years. He has taught hunter safety and educated new hunters on hunting ethics. He's been active in Operation Game Thief since its inception to stop poaching. And as we previously heard in one of our Conservation Spotlight presentations, he's actively worked to enhance wildlife habitat through the Carson Valley Chuckler Club. We had the opportunity to hear from the award winner, and it's with great pleasure and an honor for me to recognize this year's recipient of the Wayne E. Kirch Conservation Award is Ron Perrini. And I believe Mr. Perrini is here with us. And I believe I might add that Mr. Perrini did this all while he was also the Douglas County Sheriff. So it's a testament to his commitment to Nevada and its wildlife and public service. And this is just a well-deserved award. Congratulations, Mr. Perrini. Normally, I just ask someone to come forward and shake their hand. Under these circumstances, I'll leave that to you as to how you'd like to receive this. Come on up if you're
Stepped in front of me, but you have the better camera.
Okay. Congratulations again, Mr. Perrini. It's a well-deserved award, and it's a pleasure to, as part of my last meeting, to be able to give that award out to a deserving individual. With that, we'll move on to agenda item number 7, Commission General Regulations Workshop Public Comment Allowed. Agenda item 7A. Commission General Regulation 490, Party Bonus Points and First Come, First Serve, LCB File Number 103-19, Data and Technology Services Division Administrator Kimberly Munoz and Management Analyst Kylie Taylor for possible action. The Commission will hold a second workshop to consider a regulation relating to amending Chapter 402 of the Nevada Administrative Code. The regulation would allow children under 12 to purchase a bonus point if they turn 12 before the first day of the last season for that species. The regulation also addresses bonus points for sportsmen who apply as a party. Lastly, the regulation would allow a first-come, first-serve opportunity for return tags that miss the 14-day deadline. Ms. Munoz?
Hello? Okay. For the record, Kimberly Munoz, Data and Technology Services Chief. This regulation, we have 5 different elements to it, and I have a little cheat sheet here for me to go over and talk to you guys about. The element number 1 is we want to change the 11-year-old can apply for bonus points as long as they turn 12 before the last date of the season in which the species they are applying for the points. The second item is we want to update the language so that it reads you only are allowed 1 bonus point per license that you hold, and this will not allow you to get more than 1 bonus point per license per year. The third item is to allow the military to restore their bonus points if for 2 consecutive years they have been either deployed or have been unable to apply due to the military sending them out of the country on training missions and whatnot. The fourth item is the party bonus points. So if one member of the party returns their tag and gets their bonus points restored, the other members of the party would also have to return their tags as well in order to have bonus points restored. And the last item is the first come, first serve. And this is going to allow us on last minute tag returns, 14 days. If tags that are returned 14 days prior to the season starting, we can place them in a queue to allow hunters to buy them on a first come, first serve basis. So I want to just kind of go over a couple of statistics with the main draw that we just did in 2020. We only had 15% of the applications be marked that they wanted to be an alternate. So out of, we had a historic 359,000 applications this year. Only 56,000 of them marked that they wanted to be an alternate. We've already, just in the last 48 hours, have received back, hold on, and I will tell you. We've received back 11 tags from the main draw. 3 of those tags have not gone to an alternate, and those are 3 antelope tags. So those 3 tags already this year will go unused. We ended up having, we did have a 7-day electronic return process this year. Was brand new. For the first 7 days after the main draw, you had the ability to electronically return your tag. We had 198 people take advantage of those in that first 7 days. Out of that 198, 57 did not have an eligible alternate that they went to. But because we did it so early in the year, we were able to take those 57 tags and put them into the second draw. So those tags will get awarded this year. But that just gives you an idea of how many tags that we have that don't go to alternates, just this season alone. So what we would like to do is set up this first come, first serve. And I want to just talk a little bit on the technology aspect of this, because at our last workshop it was mentioned the ability to, during the draw, have a third checkbox that said, I want to be an alternate for a last minute draw. And as it sits right now, because there is so much confusion about what an alternate actually is, in fact, we got together after the main draw collectively with everybody that worked, and we went over what went well and what opportunities we had for 2021 to make improvements. And one of the items that came up was more explanation of the alternate process, what it is, and that you are only choosing to be an alternate for your first choice. So I believe with the lack, with 15% of those people, most people don't know what the alternate is. If we add an additional late minute alternate, it's only going to add confusion to the entire process. I don't believe from a technology point of view that this is the way to go, and this would not be my recommendation. I want to look at user experience and making it as easy as possible for the sportsmen to get these tags into their hands. So, and again, the way that it currently is, we can make it easier, but I believe that putting yet another box, a checkbox on there, asking people if they want to not just be an alternate, but a possible last-minute alternate, is just going to continue to be more confusing. The industry standards are already out there with having last-minute deals. If you think about you're traveling, you can go on and book last-minute hotel reservations. You can go on and book last-minute flights. Even in Vegas, they have last-minute ticket deals so that you can get shows on the last minute. And I believe that the industry has already put standards out there, and that people are used to having the idea of a last-minute deal, which is what we're presenting with this first come, first serve. Is just people that are interested in it at the last minute that can drop what they're doing and go pick up that tag and hunt to allow that. I also wanted to point out that there are 2 regulations that are already on the books that give us the ability to do a first come, first serve. And those are 502.4215 and 502.4175. And they talk about Any tags remaining after the second draw can go to a first come, first serve. So we would just like to take advantage of this for these last minute tags that are returned 14 days prior to the season starting. And that is my presentation. Is there any questions that I can answer?
Questions from the commission? Commissioner East?
Thanks, Kim. I have two quick questions for you. Putting on my marketing hat, do we need to do more public education around the alternate option?
We do, and that was one of the opportunities that we discussed after the main draw, was that we did get a lot of calls in, and they were calls about the alternate process. And people also don't understand that when you choose to be an alternate, you're only making that choice based on your first choice selection of your tag. So I mean, some of it's a personal preference of whether they want to or not, but statistically alone, with only 15% of the sportsmen choosing that this particular year, it shows us that there is not a clear understanding of what that means.
I would agree with you. And I just have one other question, if I may. Is the last minute, I know we had a lot of discussion about this at our last meeting, and I'm trying to remember, is that by email or is it by text that they'll be notified that there's an option? There's an option out there.
Well, if we go forward with the first come, first serve,
Yeah.
what we would do is put a website together, you know, very similar to what you would do if you're wanting to go on a last minute trip, is have a website that people could go to within our current Calcumi system, log in to see what tags have been returned and what is available for them to purchase. And then the first one to pick one up, again, very similar, is if you put that in your cart, you have within, say, 5 minutes to check out. If you haven't checked out, then it goes to the next person. Kind of like Ticketmaster would do, is if you're trying to buy tickets to a particular show or something.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Have like a little countdown clock there. You've got X number of minutes until this expires, and it's put back into the queue.
Okay, and I would like to talk offline or off the record about how we're gonna educate people about this process too. We don't need to just determine that right now. Thanks.
Commissioner Hubbs?
I'm just a little confused on the language proposed. Then it was saying I have written down that they're chosen in the order received. Are you saying where does it speak to the first come first serve in this new regulatory code?
Page 5, it would be 502.4215. And the blue section there, the remaining tax returned after a 14-day calendar period prior to the first day of the hunt are eligible for on a first come first served basis.
Okay, understood. So the one I was looking at was back on page 8, so I was trying to differentiate on the department shall act upon applications for such tags received in the tags in the order received. So that is for
Which section are you looking at?
I'm on page 8.
Which one?
Section 5B. And it's probably unrelated. I'm looking here, but I have written down chosen on order received.
Right. This particular section talks to the party hunts.
Okay.
And if a particular member of the party returns their tag, but not all of the party members return their tag, they will not be eligible to get their bonus points restored.
I also had another question for you in regard, just back to the youth hunt. I think we were all in agreement to that, but it was based on the fact that there were certain youth excluded if we didn't modify this regulation. Is that correct?
I don't recall that. Do you remember the details of
I
that?
just, from what I remember is that there were certain children that hadn't reached their 12th birthday or something, and so we're shuffling it back to the last season versus the first season, so
Correct.
there's
So
more
right-
opportunity for the children.
Correct. So right now they can apply for the hunt and the tag, based on their birthday turning 12 before the last day of the season, but they cannot for the bonus points. So we're trying to marry that up so that they can apply for the bonus points even if they turn 12 before the last day of the season and the season.
Any additional questions? Commissioner Cavilla?
Is that on? I can't tell.
Yes.
I guess the one concern I have, and I know I brought it up last time with the leftover list, is, and I know it's going on in Colorado, is the guys there's guys writing apps that you pay a subscription to, that they're going to mine that data, and they immediately tell you if a certain tag is posted on that list. And I know Colorado apparently right now is trying to do a workaround to that. There's guys that already figured out a workaround to the workaround, you know, so that there's going to be a challenge there, and there's going to be some people are going to have some heartache with that, you know. And guys are paying like $500, $600, $700, $800 for a subscription to an app that'll tell them when a sheep tag gets posted, you know, and you know, most people aren't going to want to do that. There's other guys that are willing to do that. So I don't know how the department and Calcami are going to work around that, you know, because I think that's a constant game. It sounds like it's already going on in Colorado. So that will, I mean, I do want to get these tags out there, but that is definitely going to be something that's going to have to be dealt with.
And one of the things that we talked about was you could not put it in your cart unless you were logged into your account. So you would have to be logged into your account. That doesn't mean that they can't have their own account and just scraping it and sending that notice out there. But if we don't do something, these tags will continue to go in.
So I'm just trying to understand, I know we kind of rehashed this last time, but why don't we just do the first come, first serve like we do with the party tags? Like there's an option to sign up to get a last minute tag and the first come, first serve. I just wanted to go rehash that again. We probably did our last
I think
session.
it's a user experience, and it kind of goes where I was saying with the alternate. Right now, when you log into the system and you pick a species, you have two boxes. The first box under, say, let's just say mule deer, says apply for this hunt. The second box says apply to be an alternate for this hunt. If we were to go with the suggestion of, at that time, they apply, we would have a third box that then says apply for last minute alternate. And with the statistics showing that only 15% of the people right now are even applying for the alternate, I don't think we have done, we have an opportunity to explain that even more. But I think from a user experience, it's very confusing. Versus saying, the other portion of that is they would be doing this up from March to May, whether I want to be a last minute alternate. You don't know what your situation is going to be come the actual hunt season. So when you're getting into September all the way through December, while you might have said back in March, yeah, I want to be a last minute alternate, you might not have that capability come, you know, August through December. However, on the flip side of that, if you didn't say I want to be a last minute alternate, but now you do have the ability to go, you're stuck. You can't offer you that tag. So by doing it, having a queue where they can go in and see that anybody that's available to go can go purchase that hunt. You don't then risk those tags coming back again later if they're issued to somebody that chose in March that they wanted to be a last minute alternate and now can't go for, you know, circumstances. Like I said, tags are just now starting to hit people's mailboxes. They were all mailed out by the 16th of this month, and already we received, just in the last 48 hours, 11 of them back because people they thought that they could go. We had the 7-day tag return. At that point, they didn't return their tags, but now that they've got them in their hand, they're already starting to return them.
Just another question. What about like a waiting list? Like, sorry, you didn't get drawn, you didn't draw a tag this year or whatever, but would you like to be on a waiting list for a last minute alternate, and then they elect that option and send it back to the department? Because then I'm just trying to think of other options just to completely rehash it out, because sometimes maybe they want to be on a waiting list.
I mean, it's a possibility. I'm trying to think through the amount of work that would cause staff to have, and if we could program that. Obviously, we want to make this process as computerized as possible to have the least amount of impact on staff time. And I'm just not sure how a waiting list would be different than an alternate list. I'm not seeing it.
No, because, well, you're gonna select you're gonna be an alternate, but I guess I'm just saying you could notify them you were not successful. Would you like to be a last minute alternate? You're saying that it's hard to distinguish between an alternate versus a last minute alternate. They're gonna get confused. The confusion's gonna be there.
Very similar to that as well, especially if we have to wait for people to then make a decision. Like, because these tags there's only 14 days before that season opens. We want to get people going as quick as possible. So if we had a waiting list, and then how long do we wait for that person to say, yes, I want this tag or not, before we then turn around and go to the next person in the list. The 14 days is kind of an essence right now. We need to get the decision made as quickly as possible. That's why we feel that the first come, first serve is we just put them in a queue, and people that can get them, go in and pick them up and pay for them when they're there.
Not only that, but with the 14-day thing, some tags might not even be returned at 14 days. They might be returned like 5 or 6 days before that hunt starts. And it's not only just the purchase of the tag, but also getting it mailed and shipped to them, or having them come to an office to pick up that tag will also add to the timing of all of this.
Additional questions? Commissioner Olberg?
Is it on now?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm amazed that 15% is the high the number for choosing the alternate. And I gotta, my mind goes that they don't understand what an alternate is. That they think that maybe they're being asked, do I want to hunt an alternate area? And not, do I want to be an alternate or the next in line on waiting list? That's how we phrase that or how we explained it. Because for me, when I put in through there, if I don't know the day of the draw, I still want to hunt, even if it's 2 days after or 20 days after or a day before the season. I wanted to hunt that area originally. I still want to hunt it today, the day before the season. I'm okay with that. So I think that the education on what an alternate is enormous, and that really changes the scope of what our discussions are here, because if they understood it, is that number going to change drastically? And therefore, when we ask them, do they want to be an alternate in this narrower window, that they wouldn't change their mind in that aspect as well.
Any additional questions? I have one question, and it's not related to the last, or the first come, first served in the 14 days, but I know a number of questions that I was asked was on the return of a party tag. When would that take effect? Because people said, I went into the party draw this year in 2020. If this regulation takes effect in the next month or two, and I said, I don't think that would happen. It would be prospective for the 2021. I'd just like to confirm that would be, in fact, be the case, because I don't think we can make this change to the party draw and the return of the tag midstream.
Our intention was correct. It would be for the 2021 hunt.
And I take it some of the concerns about waiting lists or what the last minute alternate would be in that 14-day window or less, those alternates would return the tag back saying too short a notice, whereas someone going online in that window period who says, yes, I want it, is going to get in somebody's hands because they've made the decision when they bought it, I can do it, I can use it. That's my understanding of the rationale.
That is what I'm trying to get across. Thank you for summarizing it more elegantly.
I'm usually not characterized as elegant either.
Mary Poppins and elegant.
Okay, any additional comments or questions? Commissioner Caviglia?
I do have one more, and it's in regard to the bonus point or the party tag return. I know in there we say for any reason other than reasons set forth in subsection 1 or 2, and I believe subsection 2's, if a person incurs a disability. So now, does that still leave a window that if a person within the party incurs the disability, the one individual within that party gets to return their tag? They get a letter from a doctor? Is that how that is? Am I reading that right, or?
Can you just be more specific as to what subsection you're on? Are you on 5?
On 5, it's in, if you go down to it says, members of the party is returned for a reason other than the reasons set forth in subsection 1 or 2. And then my question is, we go up to subsection 2, part B. If the person incurs a disability which prevents him or her from hunting during the season for which the tag was issued. So does that leave I guess you could call it a loophole for the one individual within the party incurs a disability, that single individual then gets their bonus points back? Because then, you potentially have a little bit of a loophole there that people, they're going to abuse it. There's no question about it.
Right, but with the medical, they have to come to us with a actual medical reason, whether it's a death in the family, we need a death certificate, if we need a note from the doctor.
Correct, but that's what I'm saying. I don't put it beyond people to do that. It would happen, and it is the truth. It's the truth, and that's what I'm saying. If you go to that, you have to say, okay, if one person within this party returns it for a disability, the whole party returns it at that point. That's my, because you're leaving a loophole there. The way I'm reading that, you're still leaving a loophole. And for them big deer tags, you'd be amazed what people will do.
Well, my only comment on that, it was when I was on the cab and became a member of the TAC committee at that point in time, which was 7 years ago, we began discussing this, and it was, we don't need to do it because people aren't abusing this process where they do the party tag, one person returns to get a restoration of points and does it again. And it's come full circle now where I believe, based upon prior meetings, we're looking to make this change. And so I guess I have to, unfortunately, agree with Commissioner Caviglia in that we've seen it. We've seen how this has transpired, that people are using the bonus or the party application to game the system, so to speak, within the rules, but they figured out a way to do it.
So would you like us to take out for any other reason set forth in 1 and 2, just strike that?
Yeah, or say that, if one turns it in for those reasons, all have to turn it in to retain the bonus points, I guess maybe if you had a family that all put in as a party, and, I guess they would probably all turn in their tags, unless you could change the wording, something like that. But.
So this language in here is just standard language from LCB, and that's in there because that procedure is just standard operating procedure for anyone who draws a normal tag. If you guys want to change that, we can change it to either of those two situations. I just wanted to point out that that's standard language from LCB because we already have that process in place for regular tags.
I'm just going to interject. I was trying to grab your attention, Mr. Chairman, so I apologize.
You're a long way away.
It's okay. We have relied on this language. I mean, you have to be dead. Okay, so who's going to claim that they're dead and not be dead? I mean, I can't imagine that. The other one is, you have to have something in writing from a physician which prevents you from hunting. Okay, well maybe, you know, somebody gets their buddy who's a physician to write that, but even so, and then you have to be in the armed forces. I'm like, who's gonna make up that? I can't, I mean, I'm assuming, and then the other one is an exception for a dream tag. So to me, I'm like, I don't understand why, it seems to me like if you have a group of hunters, and I don't do group hunting, but if you have a group of hunters, like 5 of you want to go, well, God forbid one of them dies, like, all of them are going to be imputed with that. I just feel like that's a really harsh penalty to pay when they've all planned to do that. And one of their are we saying if one of their friends die in the group, everybody has to take a bonus point?
No, I don't think it's not the death of the tag holder, because that just goes away. It's the death of a relative. But I think one of the things we're saying is if you go into the draw as a party, you're going to be a party the whole way through. And it seems to me that if the idea is if you go into the draw as a party and you're going to stay as a party the whole way through, then it's either you all return or you all, if one person returns, that person doesn't get their bonus points back. That to me was the intent. The intent of this was if you go into the draw as a party, you're going to stay as a party throughout the entire process, and we're not going to let one group of the party return their tag and get their bonus points back, and the other piece of the party goes forward and hunts that year. You maintain consistency throughout, so I think to maintain that consistency, and what the overall objective was in this regulation, then we need to modify the language. It should be either all the tags get returned and then they can all get their bonus points restored, or everybody's back to 0.
Commissioner Hubbs, what's currently happening is people put in as a party and they put Grandpa in along with them. Grandpa never intends on hunting and he returns his tags. Once he returns his tag, the party goes out and hunts. Grandpa gets his bonus points restored +1. Next year when they put in, the party takes advantage of Grandpa's bonus points, and those are averaged out for the entire party, and so they get a better average in getting a tag again. Then Grandpa doesn't, if they draw, Grandpa doesn't hunt again, he returns his tag, gets his bonus points restored +1. So every year that he's not hunting, everybody else gets to go out and hunt as a party. He stays home, and he basically is just paying more points to benefit the entire group.
And you're saying Grandpa comes to the department with a bogus letter from the physician saying he can't hunt every year?
The way that this is currently written, right, Grandpa would need to have some type of medical condition with a letter from a doctor saying that he cannot go in order to get his bonus points restored.
And that's a really good example because, you know, you get some elder people involved with the party tag. Getting a tag getting a notice like that from a medical professional wouldn't be, you know, it gets easier as you get older. So, let's face it, you know. So, you know, it's a good point, Tommy, and I agree with you. And it doesn't mean that if somebody, you know, if they buy into a party tag concept, that's a choice they're making. And if something goes wrong with an individual in a party tag, they don't have to go out and hunt. You know, they're just they'll be the ones that take the sacrifice. But that decision is made when I agree, as a party hunter. It doesn't mean they have to hunt ultimately if something happens to them.
And they still can't. The one individual gives back the tag just isn't getting their points back.
That's true.
Because the other people in the party got the benefit of those points.
That's right.
But the other way to look at it is the party's getting the benefit of all the points. So for points that are used to draw the party tag are being restored, but part of the party gets to hunt, that's not right. So I would support modification of the regulation that just is a all in, all out, for lack of a better phrase. I see people nodding, but we haven't taken public comment, and I'd like to get the public comment on this before we go further. So
Just make sure they're talking.
Unless there's any specific questions, let's get those out. If there's no questions, I'll open it up to public comment.
Jim Furrier.
Hold on a second.
I'd like to make reference to the box segment, which we have tons of boxes, PIW, whatever. One, I like the idea of a third box with a good explanation, because the people that can't figure out a box, can't figure out how to use a draw at the very, just before the season. It's going to be very confusing to us older people that aren't tech savvy. And like the gentleman said, they got apps for everything. So am I going to buy app so the second something comes in, you know, it's returned 5 days before, I get a ding at night at 12:03 so I can get it. I like the box, and that's a little bit confusing. On the tag return, party tag return, a dead person should be out of the formula, because he doesn't care if he gets his bonus points back. So, the other thing is, I know people that are taking advantage of something has to be done, and that sounds like a good idea.
Paul Dixon, Clark Cab. I will say this was one of the lengthiest discussions that we had at my cab meeting. We had a 4-3 vote, so what I wanted to talk about is we, by majority, we accepted the revised general regulation as written, but there were 3 dissenting opinions, and I wanted to go over those because they really do feed to a lot of the discussion we've had here. 2 of the board members felt strongly that implementation of a first-come, first-serve over-the-counter method was going to be fraught with, one, people gaming the system. I think the example that was used by Commissioner Cavallini was the fact that was also used at ours, is that people have written apps and will do things to get stuff. And if you don't want to disenfranchise hunters, I mean, losing a late season mule deer in area 10 or area 22, or getting a sheep tag with no bonus points because you paid money to apply to an app to do things. I think that will upset people, especially somebody that has 18 years waiting for a big sheep tag. I mean, sheep is probably the worst, but even waiting for a late season mule deer, you can wait 10 or 12 years sometimes to get that, to draw that tag. The other thing is that one board member, although it was not part of the changed language that we had in this regulation, he felt that the language that currently exists in the NRC, which is except as otherwise provided, a person may not use bonus points awarded to a person for being unsuccessful in a junior hunt, for the drawing of a tag in any other type of hunt when the person is no longer eligible to participate in a junior hunt. He felt that juniors who accumulated bonus points should be able to carry those bonus points into their adulthood. Therefore, it would allow them to be more excited about continuing hunting after junior, because we lose a fair amount of our junior hunters between junior and adult hunting. And this may be a way to excite youth to continue hunting if we allowed their bonus points to be carried over. And that is in NAC 502-4189. Thank you.
Jim Cooney, Elko Cab. Our cab is opposed to the first come, first serve based upon a number of the items that we've already heard here. It does seem as though there needs to be some clarification as far as what actually is involved with that alternate tag. That needs to be cleared up. There was no discussion from our cab with regards to that. A misunderstanding or a lack of understanding. The first come, first serve, the biggest issues were gaming the system. You're going to have people out there. Why would we want to complicate the entire issue? We're adding another thing onto the draw for the sportsmen out there. So we sure hope that the commission would rethink this first come, first serve and utilize the alternate route.
thing that might help is go down the 5 choices. So you look at, there's no one first, then you go to everybody with the second, there's no one, oh, there's a 3rd choice person that would take that tag. So I don't know how complicated the reprogramming is to look at all 5 choices. Instead of the first choice only.
Rob Jacobson, Lyon County Cab, and we also discussed, I work in a school system as well, and we see people doctor shopping all the time. They will, I'll guarantee you, doctor shop for a note. That will be wrought with fraudulent activity as well.
Rob Beamer, Carson City Cab. So we engaged in discussion on this as well, and with regard to the alternate box, I actually took a screenshot of that because I missed it when I applied for my first hunt, but I selected it for all the other hunts. The issue was I went back and tried to remove that hunt and reapply for it, and it didn't give me the option to click the alternate button. So it wasn't even an option to do it. You see what I'm saying? So I don't know whether it was just that's my user experience, but I had 2 other people that commented on that, to one of our other cab members and then to myself via email. And they said that it was a little confusing until they got in and started applying for multiple hunts at first, right? They were able to go back and they complained the same thing, that, oh, I couldn't mark the alternate button when I went back to try and edit that hunt. And so maybe there's a little glitch in there that you guys might want to consider and look at. But the recommendation that 2 different people made was, why can't it just be an extra step, right? So we go through, when we apply for tags, I think it's really organized well, right? It's pretty easy, in my opinion. Even my daughter, who struggles with that, had no problem going through and selecting what she wanted and selecting different hunts. And one of the steps was, I think if you put on there, make it a mandatory step, yes or no, I want to be an alternate, and then have an info tab there that gives an explanation of what an alternate is by clicking on it. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. But making it an option, you have to select yes or no. Does that make sense? That was the recommendation from the 2 people in our cab that gave testimony. And with regard to cab member Dixon gave you had talked about with regard to the group tags and the party tags. We had some lengthy discussion on that as well. We came up with the same exact argument that the commissioner member did with regard to anybody can skew a system if they really want to, right? And I guarantee you there's plenty of physicians out there that if somebody who is in the preservation stage of their life, if you will, goes to them and says, hey, I'm having some issues with walking or whatever, it could be anything, they're going to write them they're going to side on what's the right thing to do for the patient, right? And so the thought was exactly what Chairman Johnston said, was just completely do away with that, right? Make sure that we take that component out of there. And you had mentioned that this is standard language with LCB legal. Just because it's standard language doesn't mean that it can't be modified. I don't think that that's, a very good argument. I think that, you guys, especially this section of statute is very particular, right? And I think that it should be modified where we take that part out to where there's no question. That's all we have.
Rick Flowers for the record. On the first come, first served, we already have that in place. all this is gonna do is add tags to it. And yes, somebody's gonna find a way to game the system. But the bottom line is you have less than 14 days for somebody to get that tag. And most people aren't gonna be able to get that tag on that short of notice. Most people are gonna be bound by jobs and such to where they can't get the time. So I think that's a very small consideration, but I don't see any reason not to do something to try and afford an opportunity for more hunters to get in the field. I do agree with not having the inclusion of if you're of 1 and 2. If you apply as a party, you die as a party. I mean, that's pretty plain and simple. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Yes, Steve Robinson, Washoe. The Washoe Cab, we do really support this, the bonus point restriction. We really support an all or nothing. So if everybody gets a tag or nobody gets a tag. In my circle of friends, certainly like was mentioned, if we want to get a medical note saying that we got a problem so we can game the system, that's pretty easy to do. So if we can just eliminate that, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission. I understand there may be some difficulties with the first come, first served, but one of the recurring problems we have is that the demand exceeds the supply in Nevada. And if we have these tags that come in that 14-day window, and we can have a process that puts them in the hands of sportsmen, and maybe that's a limited number of people who have the flexibility to do a trip on such short notice, I want to get, personally, I'd like to see those tags get issued out.
Quiet, so.
Because it's a recurring issue. We have way more demand than we do the supply. And so I think this would be the details will be flushed out, but I like the idea of that. And then I think it's a rather simple change on section 5. It's on, it's actually, I'm sorry, section 6, subsection 5. So it's 502422, subsection 5. I think it would just read, if every tag awarded for antelope, bighorn sheep, mountain goat, black bear, turkey, deer, moose, and elk awarded to the members of a party is returned, and every such tag is received at least 1 business day before. And we strike the language for a reason other than the reasons set forth in subsection 1 or 2. That would address the situation. So that's where I'm at on this, and further comments or discussion? Deputy Director Robb?
A good portion of this conversation centered around teaching people more what the alternate process is. And as a department employee that's been involved in this for a long time, hunters are a creature of habit, and they get in, get things done. They don't learn very much, I can tell you. They really don't. There's nothing we advertise more than the Silver State package. We say Silver State and bonus package. For the past 3 years, I've contacted every one of those Silver State people that drew that tag, and not a single one of them knew it came with a rifle, QU gear, 1-rate gear, Vortex optics, rifles, anything. We have full-page ads in our brochures. We do everything to market stuff. It's hard to get our message across to hunters. They're, like I said, they get in, they know what they're after, they get it done, and they move on. That doesn't mean we're not going to try harder to market alternates and look at different ways of slowing them down in the process, asking a separate question, doing different things. We got to get better at it. But as Division Administrator Munoz explained, we had almost 60 people in the 200 that returned the tag that we're not going to get reissued. We had 1,100 tags go last year not getting into the field. Everything we do, somebody's going to find a way to game it. There's no way around it. This isn't about gaming, it's about those 1,100 tags, getting them in the hands of people and getting them in the field. There's gonna be a few things that leave a bad taste in people's mouth. But we have bighorn sheep tags returned the day before the season that go unused. We're even saying if that tag gets returned the day before the season, we're still gonna market that tag. If there's days left in that season and somebody wants to buy it, if you tell me there's 10 days left on a bighorn sheep tag, I'm gonna take it. But bonus points apply, waiting periods apply, everything applies. It's about that opportunity of 1,100. We have 30,000 tags in the state of Nevada, give or take. Under 30,000. We have 1,100 tags not getting into the field annually. We ought to do better than that.
And I guess my one comment is while I understand some people's concerns about apps and technology, I look at that as a potentially positive thing as to how it can make a good user experience. And here's a tag that just came available, and then you're like, the mechanism by which you get it immediately, that fulfills the goal of getting unused tags into the hands of people who can use it. So, any further comments or discussion? Commissioner Hubbs?
I agree with the last minute selection for the 14 days. I don't really have an issue with that. I have a personal issue with the removal of section 2A and B. Wait, no, excuse me. Subsection 1 and 2, or 2, A, B, C, and D. Regarding the group hunt, just because I think we're playing to the lowest denominator here. Like, everybody's a fraudster. I think most people who do a group hunt, in my opinion, would want to be doing it with a certain group of people, and something can arise. I mean, I don't want to penalize somebody for having to go in the armed forces. Like, I feel like that is, I don't know, I just find that unbecoming personally, and I don't see why, if he or she has to go serve away from their country, that he or she should be penalized. And if that's something that our policy over time, I mean, we've already have it in our code. I think we already have code that talks about fraudulent applications or fraudulent processes, correct? Like, if somebody is caught doing something fraudulent, there's a penalty anyways overall. So I don't understand why we're so worried about gaming the system instead of helping people have a good experience. And if somebody's family member dies, or if somebody has to go away to serve their country, I don't think that's becoming for us to take away our acknowledgement of that. I don't know. That's just my personal opinion, so I would not be in favor of removing that.
Additional comments? Commissioner Olmberg?
Yes, I mean, I'm fully behind the first come, first serve as a last resort type thing, but I'm still, you know, I struggle with abandoning the alternate list up in that 14-day period. I know for a fact how I would feel if I put in for, you know, very difficult sheep area or goat, you know, a goat tag, and I did choose the alternate, and it comes within that 14-day period. I didn't get notified. I have no opportunity other than to become be part of the first come, first serve. That I would have much rather had taken that tag, you know, in that 14-day window. So I still like the thought of having that alternate, exhausting the alternate list all the way up to the point where if there's only 15%, it's not that many people to check. There is no alternate for this hunt. Then we go to a first come, first serve.
I guess that goes back to something that Mr. Perrini brought up. You know, we're working off your first choice. If you open that up to all five for all choices that they have, and let them make that decision, or does that clean up that list a little bit further, do you think?
I believe we would have to go, for the record, Kimberly Munoz, Division Chief of Data and Technology Services. I believe that is a different NAC, and we would have, if we're going to change the alternate process itself, we would have to go, it's not in this particular regulation. Am I wrong on that? No. Okay, yeah, that would have to be a separate item altogether if you want to change the alternate to be all 5 choices and not just the first one. We can't, what I'm saying is what's presented in front of you, we cannot do that. We would have to go and put a different change to a different set of NACs together.
Maybe I misunderstood this. Because the one choice is right here.
We can do it in this, Kim.
We can.
Section 4, or no, sorry. Section 4 is NAC 502.421, and that does discuss the alternate list. I do want to point out that is a major change and would need to go back to LCB before you guys would be able to adopt this.
And to what end that resolves any of the issues, I don't know. I mean, that 15, I agree with you, Kim. The marketing on this, people are probably really misunderstanding. That alternate could be a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and I think cleaning some of that up is really going to go a long ways to cleaning up your list. I think that's a real good approach to resolving a lot of this. It may become more and more as you get that outreach going and stuff. I think that's going to help a lot.
So the 14-day window already exists. In other words, if a tag is returned within the 14-day period, as it stands now, we don't go through the alternate process.
We don't reissue them at all.
If tags are returned 17 days before the season starts, they don't get reissued, because we've said we will notify you 14 days prior. So if a tag's returned 14 days prior, it doesn't get reissued. If it's returned 15 days prior, it doesn't get reissued. 17, 18 days, a lot of times they don't get reissued, depending on timing and being able to notify that customer, and that's what we promised. And when they check that alternate box, they're going to be notified in 14 days. That's not happening. It is happening, but a good portion of tags get returned under that 14 days. We had a Rocky Bighorn sheep tag returned last year that was not used. It did not get into the field. It was returned under 14 days.
Right now, it's taking us between 3 and 5 days to process tag returns and get them issued to alternates. Just because we're trying to increase that workflow efficiency with automation. With Calcamine, we've done a lot of work to figure out what the current process is and steps that we can reduce in order to speed that up. But as it sits now, especially as it gets closer to a season, it can take us 3 to 5 days to process a tag return to see if there's an eligible alternate to give it to.
Commissioner Hubbs?
I just going to reiterate, I actually thinking about this and my own personal feelings about it, and I am in agreement with what is proposed as is. So I don't think I would make any changes. That's just my personal opinion. I think it makes it a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. and I would like to err on the side of good human character. I know that's not always the case, but I think NDOW's efficient enough to know when things may be coming across their desk that may be fraudulent. That's just my gut feeling, and I think if we try to regulate the world and err on the side of bad behavior overall, that's not a good approach. So I after reviewing everything, I think that it's the best way to proceed forward as we are right now.
Any other comments or questions? I'm just hearing from the public and how we've got to this point. To me, you have to really address what the goal is here on the change to the party application process, is to treat the party consistently throughout and stick with that. We've got pushed to get to this regulation because of the recurring evidence of people drawing as a party, having one person return the tag. And so, do we need to take action? I mean, I guess what I would do is, I would move to advance it to an adoption hearing, because this is a workshop at the next, well, I'll just make a motion. I would move that we advance Commission General Regulation 490 LCB file number R103-19 to an adoption hearing at the next commission meeting as presented, with the following change: that subsection 5 of section 502422 delete the language "for a reason other than the reason set forth in subsection 1 or 2. Is everyone clear on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 8-1 with Commissioner Hubbs dissenting. Anyone need a break before we move on to the next one? Does anyone need a break? Okay, I'm not hearing anything. I've heard that I drive the meeting too fast with not enough breaks and not enough lunch breaks, so I'm going to be mindful that if you need a break, you'll let me know. We'll move on then to agenda item 7B, Commission General Regulation 491, notification of draw results. Data and Technology Services Division Administrator Kimberly Munoz for possible action. The Commission will hold a workshop to consider a regulation amending Nevada Administrative Code 5024208 relating to providing notification of draw results to clients who have opted out of having their results made public. Ms. Munoz?
For the record, Kimberly Munoz, Data and Technology Chief. What we would like to do in this particular change to this regulation is strike out that we have to post the results on the internet, and instead we would just like to say that we have to notify the results to the hunters and the applicants. This change will allow us to either email them in the future if we want to start incorporating text messages as a notification as well. Right now, they have the ability to opt out of having the results posted on the internet, but with the way that this regulation is written, we have to post them. So we would like to make this slight modification.
Questions? Any public comment? Mr. Perrier?
I have a question. I couldn't quite hear what you said.
So basically, we want to make a slight modification with this particular regulation. Right now, it's requiring us to post all results on the internet. We have an opt-out feature of hunters that do not want their results posted on the and that would not change. Well, all we want to do is have the ability to notify you, whether we do it via email, on the internet, text message, whatever. So this modification would just give us that flexibility.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission further discussion? Commissioner Hubbs?
The only issue I had written down is that notify could be determined to be somewhat vague, like what does that mean? You know, and is there any detriment to individuals who are going to claim they weren't notified, or is there any way you can't be notified? I mean, just to go through the process, so once you get your tag, you are typically notified online, but now we're not going to do that, so we're going to notify them in another manner. Is there any way that the department could err and somebody would have a tag and they haven't been notified in some way?
Well, I know from my experience, if I don't get the email, and I think I was up at about 3 in the morning checking to see if the emails were coming in, if they don't get that notification, I suspect they're going to be contacting the department and say, what were my draw results?
Okay.
I think this is just a clarification that the department can notify the applicants rather than posting results online. I'm not too concerned because I know there's a lot of people eagerly awaiting draw results, and maybe I'm abnormal in that I was checking my phone by bedside during the night, but.
Commissioner Hubbs, so anybody can log into their account at any given time and see, once the draw's been executed, see their own results. They'll have, next to the tag that they applied for, it'll either say successful or unsuccessful.
Some of us even do that before the emails start coming out. So, any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I think we could just, I don't believe we need to take action, but could move this to an adoption hearing at the next commission meeting as presented. Okay. All right, we've been going about an hour and a half. I suspect people might want to take a quick break, especially before the next agenda item, so why don't we do that?